Gaydos, does this put a close to 9/11, our nation's history with 9/11? And what I'm talking about is that today, 3 of the 9/11 plotters who are currently in Guantanamo Bay down in Cuba pled guilty to a plea deal that gives them life in prison as opposed to the death penalty.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like this, that we allowed them to have a plea deal. And the big one is the mastermind 9/11, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, KSM. And I think everybody knows the picture. They dragged his sorry carcass out of somewhere, and they brought him to Gitmo, and, he's up there with bin Laden. Maybe some of the families, I don't know, are upset with this, but listen, he ever getting out?
No.
Of course not. No. Of course not. He's going to rot. He's going to rot at Guantanamo Bay. He's not going to be treated. He's going to be treated fairly, but he's not going to be. He's not going to get some cushy,
country club prison.
No,
like
he's not getting that.
So this is interesting because I think a lot of people, understandably, are like, well, why didn't they? How of all the people in the world, how did these guys not get the death penalty? Right. I mean, that's a solid argument.
Right.
For murdering nearly 3,000 people. How could you not? Well, we are still a nation of laws.
Right.
And the government who was prosecuting this case in a military court was worried about losing. And they were worried about losing because they were concerned that the confessions that all 3 men made would be thrown out in a court of law because the CIA admitted to torturing them to getting these confessions. And the government basically came out and said, we can go to court. They might literally let these guys go. I mean, we might lose this case because the CIA admitted in writing to what they did.
All right, they tortured them
to get confessions.
So they waterboarded them.
Yes.
Okay, is that illegal? Is that illegal in Gitmo? Nothing's illegal in Gitmo.
No, but in a court of law, a coerced confession can be thrown out.
No doubt. I talked to a general, I remember around maybe 10, 15 years ago, just it was a chat. And we were, for one reason or another, we were talking about 9/11. And I remember that he told me, you were talking about Guantanamo Bay. And I mean, you know what it was? It was,
Tell me.
It was when President Obama wanted to close it.
Yes, he
wanted to close
put
Gitmo.
them all on trial. This is kind of what started all this.
Right. And he got
let them have their day in court.
He got into office. Like, that was one of the things he said, I'm going to close Gitmo. Then he got into office. He's like, well, crap, I can't close Gitmo because we need it open. He figured out what George Bush already knew. So he kept it open. So I was talking to this general about, I'm like, how do they get this? Like, how do they get some information? And the general told me this, because the worst thing you could do is waterboard somebody or torture somebody, because you're not going to get real evidence. You're not going to get a real a nugget that you could use against them.
You're not going to get the truth.
The only way to do that is to become their friend. You pretend that you're the.
That was in some of those movies. I remember some of the big ones that
you
we
get
saw.
in close, and you have these deep conversations. You kind of have the trust going, and you get a little bit here, and then a little bit there, and then you start building it. And that's the only way this general told me to do it.
And again, these terrorists have lawyers. They're military lawyers. What are they, JAGs? Is that right?
I don't know.
And the CIA admitted to waterboarding KSM 183 times.
Not feeling too bad about that.
I don't have a problem with that.
No, I don't either.
Legally, anything he said could be thrown out of court.
Okay.
And the argument they're making, and I get it, is we can get life in prison or we can go for the death penalty, and a judge might literally let him off.
Yeah, I don't need the death penalty. That guy can rot for his long. I hope he lives a long life at Gitmo.
Yeah.
With no window to look out of. I hope he rots. So the fact that he's not getting the death penalty and he is the mastermind to 9/11, a lot of people said, even over bin Laden, this is the guy that put it all together.
Yeah, and the other guy, there's two others. The other one was the one who originally came up with the plan and sold bin Laden on the idea.
Yeah. He can stay in Gitmo for the rest of his life. I don't think this is any real big loss.
Fair. But I guess, and I can't speak for them. Is it closure? Is this...
That I don't know.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does it finally close a book? Because some of these families have been traveling to these military tribunals, sitting in courtrooms while these complex legal arguments have been fought over.
I don't know, but I have a hard time thinking that someone who lost a loved one in those buildings, knowing that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is going to just, rot till the day he dies in prison. Mm-hmm. I just think that's almost better than giving him the death penalty. We always have that conversation.
Because it's not a cushy place to live.
No, you got somebody on death row. Okay, now should we give them the death penalty or should we just let them stay in jail? It's miserable. They have no hope. They're going to eat terrible food for the rest of their life. They're going to sleep on a bed for the rest of their life. They're going to be miserable. I don't know if there are 9/11 families who are upset about that. I don't want to speak for them. I don't know.
Right. I couldn't possibly speak for them.
Yeah, I don't know.
I hope there is some closure for them at some point. I can hope that for them.
It was such a vicious, personal murder. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's not a family member who just died. It is a family member who was either on a plane and it went down and exploded. They were in a building, and planes were running. It's just the most horrific thing you'll ever think and you'll ever see. And that just makes it so much worse. And I don't know, but I'm glad that he's going to rot. He'll rot there. I hope he lives till he's 110. I really do. I really do. I hope he lives for a long, long time.
Unless, and again, I thought it was pretty crazy to think about. If you go to trial, it's not a guarantee.
They made the right move.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee they're going to be guilty because a lot of the evidence would have been thrown out.
And even if they went to trial and they we got to let him go, that dude's getting clipped.
Well, yeah,
There's no, right? I mean, right?
The plane home wouldn't have made it.
No way.
I think it might be a nice way to put it.
Thanks for watching Outspoken with Bruce and Gaydos. Tap to watch more from KTAR News and click the button in the middle to subscribe.